Let's dive right into this. Today, in this explainer, we're cracking open an ancient text from the Mahabharata. But listen, we aren't just reading a traditional story here, we are literally uncovering a hidden code. This specific narrative completely breaks all the rules of your typical epic literature. And once you see the mechanics operating beneath the surface, it changes absolutely everything. It brings up a massive question. Can an ancient myth actually hold the blueprint for human evolution? Throughout this explainer, we're going to unravel a central mystery. You see, the epic tale of Savitri actually undoes a prophecy of death. And if you know anything about ancient myths, you know this defies the very core tapestry of how these stories work. So why exactly does this one break the mold? Well, this shattered curse perfectly illustrates the anomaly. Think about it. In normal epics, if a sage predicts a curse or a death, it is a done deal. It always comes to pass. It's basically the inescapable law of the narrative. But this unique story revolves around a divine intervention that actually saves the character, Satyavan, from his predicted seemingly inevitable death. The prediction simply doesn't happen. Let's look at exactly how this unprecedented event gets set into motion. This brings us to section 1, a king's 18-year penance and the tapasya of Ashvapati. We start our narrative with King Ashvapati. He's an old, righteous, and childless ruler of a people called the Madras. Now, he's incredibly loved by his citizens, but he is facing a deeply painful reality, the imminent end of his lineage. But the true root of the king's suffering goes way deeper than you might think. This wasn't born out of royal ego or just wanting a worldly heir. The king felt a desperate need to continue his physical lineage because without it, his continuous lifelong effort to manifest the divine on earth would just reset to zero. Literally, if the physical lineage drops, the entire spiritual effort in the physical world comes to a grinding halt. So what does he do? To secure this necessary heir, Ashvapati undergoes a severe tapasya, or penance. Over the course of this journey, he completely restricts his meals to only every sixth meal. He strictly controls his senses, and over the years he offers an incredible 100,000 oblations, sacrificial offerings, into the fire for the goddess Savitri. That is some serious dedication. And the duration of this timeline? 18 years. That is absolutely vital. The choice of the number 18 is no coincidence here. In the occult traditions of these texts, 18 is a profound number representing a full, completed cycle of embodied life. It's the total exhaustion of all possibilities in a cycle before breaking through into a completely new manifestation. He finishes the cycle and boom, the breakthrough arrives. Moving on to section 2, the unexpected divine boon and a demand denied. Because after this grueling 18-year cycle, the goddess Savitri finally emerges right out of the fire, radiant and pleased to grant the king a deeply unexpected boon. The ultimate twist is in exactly what she gives him. Ashvapati asks for many sons to continue his worldly dharma, to keep the spiritual work of his noble race alive, but the goddess firmly grants him a single daughter instead, for an ancient king relying on male heirs to continue a lineage. This was a huge, huge curveball, and she pairs the gift with a strict command, telling him there should be no answer or argument from you in any way. In a highly unusual move for epic literature, where mortals and gods, constantly negotiate or argue over boons, she completely shuts down any argument from the king. By doing this, she's subtly hinting that she herself, the Divine Mother intends to incarnate as this very child. The linguistic clues here are just brilliant. The goddess explicitly mentions the daughter will be born on Bhu. Now, Bhu is Sanskrit for earth, but its deeper root meaning signifies a place of constant becoming. It highlights the earth not just as a bunch of dirt and stone, but as the absolutely necessary physical framework for the evolution and growth of consciousness. The divine is coming into the physical world to initiate real change, which leads us to section 3, the radiant, unmatchable princess, a divine anomaly. Named Savitri after the goddess who granted her life, the princess is born to the eldest queen, Malavi, and grows up brilliantly, honestly, as perfectly as the moon in its waxing phase. But as she hits her youth, a very unique problem pops up. Her divine energy is so blinding, so completely unmatchable, that the people view her as a literal goddess walking among them. She resembles a flawless golden statue burning with this bright splendor. Because of this, not a single man dares to approach the king to ask for her hand in marriage. They are entirely overpowered by her light. Now, if we look under the hood at the Sanskrit root of her name, Su, we find it means to distill, to press out, or to bring to birth. It's the act of manifesting the transcendental divine into the physical world. So her true nature is exactly that. She is the divine pressed out into a living, breathing physical form. So to avoid failing his dharma as a father, which dictated he absolutely had to find his daughter a match, Ashvapati issues an unprecedented command. He tells his radiant daughter to go out into the forests and find her own equal. And just as unprecedented, she obeys without a single word of hesitation or argument. She simply packs up and sets out. This brings us to section 4, decoding the spiritual allegory and Sri Aurobindo's vision. So how does this all fit together? Well, we can thank the philosopher and yogi Sri Aurobindo, whose interpretation completely pulls back the curtain, transforming this from a simple, sweet tale of conjugal love into a massive cosmic allegory. Sri Aurobindo revealed that this is not just a mythological fairy tale, it is a precise blueprint for how human consciousness actually conquers ignorance and death. It is all about the mortal earth consciousness calling down divine intervention to essentially transform itself. Notice how this deep symbolism maps directly onto the characters themselves. It's like a giant puzzle. Every character here is actually an incarnation of a living force. Ashvapati isn't just some human king. Symbolically, he is the concentrated energy of human spiritual endeavor, striving upward from the mortal plane toward immortality. And we can map the rest of the epic directly to this spiritual cipher too. Satyavan, the man Savitri will ultimately choose, represents the soul carrying divine truth, but he's hopelessly trapped in the grip of death and ignorance. Dyumatsena, Satyavan's father, much like a blindfolded entity, represents the divine mind that has fallen blind and lost its celestial vision. And then, of course, there is Savitri herself. As Sri Aurobindo perfectly encapsulates, Savitri is the divine word. She is the supreme truth herself. She was brought into a physical body, pressed out into the material world for one specific monumental reason, to save the soul of humanity. So ultimately, when King Ashvapati sends her out into the world to find a mate of equal qualities, he isn't just sending his daughter to find a husband. Symbolically, the divine truth is literally being sent out to find and rescue the soul of humanity. It is the divine directly responding to that intense 18-year human plea for evolution. This brilliant linguistic and spiritual code leaves us with a really profound reflection. The earth is a place of becoming, of growing consciousness. Ashvapati did his part to ensure the spiritual lineage didn't die out. So, the question is, are we doing our part to continue this profound cycle of earthly becoming? Or will we just let the effort fade? Think on that for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.